Hi, everyone. I'm Doug, and thanks for coming out tonight. And excuse me while I adjust my mask for the 100th time. Now, for those of you who don't know me, you're probably wondering, why is he dressed like Zorro? Well, you see, I'm somewhat of a costume fanatic. And I think it all started when I was about 10, and my mom made me a Superman outfit. And I didn't look anything like the real Superman. I had baggy pants, and I had a crooked S on my shirt. But I felt invincible enough to fly off the garage. And 10 stitches later, I blamed the whole thing on bad costuming. And when I was 13, my favorite band was Paul Revere and the Raiders. They had a TV show that came on every Saturday. Does anybody remember that? And I loved their three-corner hats and their revolutionary outfits. And when I got invited to a junior high school party, I told myself, I'm going to dress up like Paul Revere. But the best I could do was long underwear and boots. And none of the girls at the party wanted to talk to me. Well, a year later, I came up with a brilliant idea of dressing up like a football player and walking to school. And everyone wanted to tackle me. My friends wanted to tackle me, the pachucos wanted to tackle me, even the teachers wanted to tackle me. At age 15, I went out for marching band, and those were the best costumes, right? Was anybody in marching band? It was a double-breasted jacket with fake brass buttons, pants with a big stripe that goes down here, and a big fuzzy hat with a little tassel on top. We used to play marching music and form up into a mayonnaise jar at the halftime shows. And now, I am Zorro. And the reason I'm dressed as Zorro tonight, because my story is about the times when I got married as Zorro. And there was more than one time. I'm the costume guy. It all started back in 1990, when my wife and I were planning our wedding. We made two agreements with each other. First, we agreed that we would get married to each other every 10 years. And we also agreed that we needed to do something different because both of us had been married before. So we came up with the idea that I would dress up like Zorro and fly down on a rope. And we wouldn't tell anybody about it. It was a beautiful vision. We would find a mission-style church with high ceilings and vigas, and we'd hire a flamenco guitar player that could play fiery rasquiadas. That's Spanish for playing the guitar really fast. And we dress up my best man as Sergeant Garcia. That's Zorro's second. And the plan came together beautifully. I was able to find the perfect costumes for Zorro and Sergeant Garcia. We hired a flamenco guitar player who said he could play really fast. And we found the perfect chapel out in La Forêt Black Forest. It had high ceilings and vigas, and it even had a balcony in the back with a makeshift dressing room where Zorro could hide out until the fateful flight. But the day of the wedding, everything went wrong. My brother and I went out to the church to rig up the zip line, which consisted of a mountain climbing rope and a pulley device with a handle at the end. And we were having trouble rigging it up. It was taking us much too long, and the guests were starting to arrive. So I never got a chance to try it out. What could go wrong? Now, about that time, Sergeant Garcia arrives at the church. Now, the plan for Sergeant Garcia that day was to rent a limousine that would take the wedding party from the church to the reception afterwards. But he came up with a brilliant idea of renting the limo early so he could impress a young lady that he was trying to date who worked at the Broadmoor. Well, they managed to ring up about a $400 limousine bill, which consisted of lots of champagne and some kind of long-distance call from the girl to her mother. I shook my head, went up to my balcony dressing room, and that's when I discovered I had forgotten my Zorro boots. Now, I knew that Zorro couldn't fly in tennis shoes that day, so I went running back out into the church, and fortunately, I ran into Bryant Jones. We had asked Bryant to play some piano music for the wedding that day, and it just so happened he was wearing some fabulous big black boots. And he was more than happy to help poor Zorro out. Only problem was, those boots were about 2 sizes too big for me, and my feet were swimming with every step I took. And I started thinking to myself, these boots are gonna come off and kill somebody. I could see the headline in Monday's Gazette. Fun turns to tragedy at the Zinn wedding when the groom, dressed as Zorro, lost his boots flying down on a rope. Several people were killed. I went back up and finished dressing. I had to take one last look at the church. It was full of people now, friends and family members. I recognized some friends who had brought a high school foreign exchange student, and this was her first trip to the United States and her first American wedding. I felt a little sorry for her. And way up front on the right, I recognized my mom's blue hair. She looked like a blue beacon. I retreated back to my dressing room, and I could hear Brian Jones playing the processional, which was Layla. And I knew that Danelle was walking up the aisle with my 2 young daughters, Cassie and Bonnie, out in front, throwing rose petals. And then the flamenco guitar player started playing a fiery rasguiata crescendo, and I knew it was my time. I put the rose between my teeth. I ran out of my dressing room, and I leaped off the balcony, and now I was El Zorro flying high above the crowd. I squinched my toes so hard that my mask went up above my face, and the zip line got stuck. And now I was a blind, helpless Zorro, dangling high above the crowd. Out of the corner of my mask, I could see my mom's blue hair every once in a while going back and forth. Well, some friends and family, fortunately, came and got me down. And I walked the rest of the way up to the altar, handed my beautiful bride her rose, and we proceeded to get married. So now, fast forward, 10 years later, as agreed, we were planning our next wedding. And we decided, why not reenact the Zorro wedding? It was a beautiful vision. We could attach a zip line from my neighbor's tree to a tree in our backyard. We could hire the same flamenco guitar player and invite the same friends and family members that came to the first wedding. We would even put Zorro flies again on the invitations. Only problem was there were some power lines that separated our properties. And when I rigged up that zip line, I had to attach it to the very, very top of my neighbor's tree. And when I looked down, I thought to myself, you're gonna kill yourself. The day of the wedding, I could see the headline in Monday's Gazette. Fun turns to tragedy at the Zorro reenactment wedding when the groom, dressed as Zorro, yes, it's the same Zorro, died in a tragic zipline accident. Services will be held at Our Lady of the Most Vicious Blood this Saturday at 2 p.m. The day of the wedding arrived, and one of the first people to get there was the $25 minister we had hired out of the Gazette. He didn't know what to expect. I explained the ceremony, I showed him the zip line, and he shook his head and said, son, you are going to kill yourself. I nodded and went, yes, I know. Well, I escaped over to the neighbor's house to get dressed, and I climbed the tree, and I had a bird's eye view of our backyard, and all my friends and family were there and getting ready for the big event, and we had relegated Sergeant Garcia to 10 bar that day just so he wouldn't run up another outrageous limousine bill. And the flamenco guitar player started playing a crescendo of fiery rasquiadas, and I leaped out of the tree. I tucked my legs to avoid the power lines. I was hurtling down to earth faster than a speeding bullet. I told myself, let go, but instead I hit the tree. And now I was a sprawling, groaning, pathetic Zorro on the lawn. The same friends and family members came and picked me up and dusted me off. I announced to the crowd, I'm getting too old for this shit. And we proceeded to get married. You know, so I guess the point of this story is that you've always got to keep the romance alive in your relationships, because I will always be Danelle's Zorro. And just tonight, we were thinking that next time Zorro comes in on a horse, it's a beautiful vision. Thank you.